Dan Daniel, Director of the STEM Academy. If you weren't here for my first introduction a few minutes ago. Just really excited to have all of you here tonight. You know, I've been the director of the STEM program for 2 years now, and we have been doing this kind of virtually live streaming it from the classroom. Haven't really had an opportunity yet to do it in person. And so this is our first time together, and it's really exciting to see everybody's faces and be able to do this in a real and authentic way. So thanks for being here tonight. You know, if you know much about the STEM program, you probably already know that it's a multi-year program. In the 10th grade, the students who are accepted into the program get a little dabbling in things like coding, CAD, variated design, some manufacturing through 3D printing. We do some biotech stuff. And then one of the purposes of that class is to really give them a foundation in some of those skills and maybe spark some interest. And then propose these different projects and hopefully go deeper into what they're more passionate about. And so tonight, I hope that you'll see that passion coming through as our students present their projects. One thing you'll notice about these projects is some of them are pretty ambitious. And so we work with various members of the community and CSU, and we look for mentors to support students on their projects because I don't know much about any of that stuff. I'm just here to like harass them to keep getting stuff done. So, but we reach out and find professionals in the community who can give them a higher level of support. And, you know, sometimes those mentors kind of look at the project and they're like, wait, you guys are in high school trying to do this? Which leads to sometimes some, challenges along the way. Timing is a big issue for these projects. If you take for my STEM Academy members, if you did a project and you wish you had more time, raise your hand. Okay. Pretty common. Not everybody, but a lot of times we end and are like, man, I wish I had an entire other semester to work on the project. So see that come through in a lot of the learning opportunities that we've had. But trying to plan out a complex project over a 4-month period as a high schooler can be a difficult thing. It can be difficult for any of us. So I just want to applaud all of our teammates for a job well done. So let's give them a quick hand. Really the foundation and the purpose, in my mind, the goal of the STEM Academy is to build essential skills. These are things like communication and teamwork, and none of the kids sign up for the STEM Academy for that part. But it is something that underlies everything we do, and we do focus on those things like how do we work effectively as a team, how do we plan and problem solve along the way. So I hope that you see those different skills coming across as you learn more about the students' projects this evening. And then, of course, another purpose of the STEM Academy is to develop those passions and let the students dabble in these different skills and learn more about what's out there. And sometimes they figure out, well, I really actually don't like coding very much, so I'm going to do that, right? So there are opportunities to find out what the passions are and also steer in different directions if there are things that they're not doing. Okay, I need to stop talking because I can just keep going. I would love to introduce to you some important people. We get a lot of support from the community in different ways. And one of our biggest supporters is our STEM Advisory Board. The STEM Advisory Board serves multiple purposes. For one, they help guide our program goals. And so when I'm, going off in some direction and I think, well, maybe we should do this, I often look to the advisory board because they know more of what the industry and what post-secondary institutions are looking for in students. So the advisory board helps us determine what direction to go with our program. They also serve as mentors to projects. Oftentimes, they provide guidance and help refine new direction for projects. They serve a lot of different roles. They also will host students as interns during the summers often, which is a really great opportunity, and encourage all of our STEM Academy students too. get involved in the internship. If you are an advisory board member, would you please stand up? Right. Lindy, E at the end. Okay, I thought. Andrew Warnock, Sudeep, Ajrisha, Kristen Gray, and who did I miss? We're missing a couple others, but these are our CSU and industry professionals who are supporting the project. So thank you guys so much for all that you do, and I look forward to checking in with you after our projects and getting some feedback from you on how you thought things went. I'd also like to thank any of our mentors who made it tonight. So if you were, I don't know if we have any here, but if you were a mentor on the project, would you stand up? Our team from the. We look for all kinds of people to support projects, and so anytime someone can come along and partner on a project, we really appreciate the support that they. I think that's all I wanted to say, so I'll let me. I'll stop talking and introduce our first team. Just real quick, kind of order of business. Each team's going to come up. They're going to give their presentation. You guys will probably have some questions, but I'm going to ask you to hold off on those until we get to our gallery walk time, where you can really focus on digging in and grilling them with your questions about their projects. So hold on to those until after all the presenters have gone, and we'll get a chance to ask those questions after during that time. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and have our first team come on up. Our team.
The problem that we decided to address were the issues with traditional agriculture. There have been many issues with unpredictable weather and droughts and excessive water usage, and things like pollution. And climate change is also causing issues along with urbanization. And there's just less arable land for traditional agriculture. And so it's overall just taking up too much space. And so we came up with the solution of aquaponics. Yeah, so aquaponics is a fish and grow system that utilizes the relationship between plants and fish. So as fish go about their regular digestive process, they produce ammonia, and the ammonia is helpful for plants. They're growing cycles, and as the plants pull those nutrients out of the water for them, it seems to circle back into the fish. And the whole thing just runs satisfied. Okay, so we're just going to also have a goal question competence that we were plans quickly linked. And then the second primary goal was to have just the general use accessibility because it's questions about. And then the second goal is to have fully self-sustaining system so that we can function without any costs and more. And the second one is to visit the functioning of the planning system so that we can develop design aspects for the usability systems. Environmental one experience about the communities and trees. So we've done a very strong development project on engineering design, and then for the next 2 months we made construction and more rest of the The first phase of our project was research. So we began by researching the habitat requirements because fish and plants are living things. They need different like food sources and stuff like that. So fish produce ammonia, like we said already, and plants use that as a fertilizer that obviously ammonia are toxic for fish. So we have to research all the water purification and things like that to go in and make sure that we can put it together. And the second thing that we have to research were growing mediums because they're not grown in traditional soil. We use kind of like rocks. And so you have to get rocks that are porous enough to retain moisture, but not too much moisture because that could cause issues like root rot. And the third thing we had is where water cycles, and use the bells and trees, and also have the water coming from a water pump system.
So during research phase of our project, we reached out to the funds following my recommendations. And then the plans to make an extension to be written about system, along with the flow and water system. There's also some projects that are in our substrate, some storage volumes and some materials to manage. The next stage of our project was design. So during the stage, basically, we were able to see all that we did and start brainstorming what we're doing to build a power system. So we small amount of drawings, and a lot of drawing ideas, figuring out what we would need to make this happen and build that way. Okay, then we moved on to the construction phase of the project. We decided that we wanted to build a shop ourselves, so because we had a lot of like specific requirements, specifically the highway requirement. We wanted each shop to be able to move that 200 pounds with the rocks and water. So we went down to the workshop, we saw some wood and some tools, and we found the rich features that we used to keep on.
The next main aspect of the system is the bell segments. So as I said earlier, this is how we cycle water. And there's three main components. There's the media guard, which is on the outside, the sand pipe, which is in the center, and then the bell segment, which is kind of in the middle. And so how it works is water is constantly flowing into the system. And once it reaches a certain height, which is the height of the second height, it's down, and that creates a vacuum and it sucks all the water from the tank out. So it reduces it to absolute just
After we finished the construction phase, we were able to move on to the testing phase, which was essentially just us taking everything, putting it in RTC and then linking water in 21. So here you can start putting a system in the spot 2 bits, those are ones that can like bell segments to the flow ones. The bottom bit is hydroponics, so it is going to put the water all the time. We found a lot of version where we keep the fish. And then this is a picture on the left side is an automatic fish feeder that we made for it. So that is been really close to our stand from the convenience store over, which means that we should automatically every 8 hours and most of our systems be 48 hours. In the bottom of the bed, we grew lettuce because it has the lowest light requirements and it also much access to the greenhouse that we're growing in. In the top end, we grew tomatoes and basil plants because they have higher light requirements and they just have more access up there. And in the middle one, we grew peppers because they're shorter plants. And we also tested the water system every few days for nitrates, nitrates, and ammonia, make sure that the system is maintaining healthy levels. And then you guys see some pictures of when we first got our plans in it and then they look like now today.
We faced no setbacks during our projects, most of them were because of our bell segments. And so one main issue was that they would start draining but never stop. And so we created a solution, as you can see up there, it's somebody who's snorkel. It basically allows air to get in and break the vacuum.
Yeah, over the course of the project, we learned a lot about different things. We went into plant care, fish care, we did some woodworking, we did some coding, we worked on 3D modeling. There was just generally a lot of different things that we focused on, but most of all, I guess the most important thing we learned from this was really problem solving skills. We came up against a lot of challenges, and I think that our biggest takeaway is the ways that we were able to solve the problems. And then this is just some of our general studies. We're looking at to have a related tools for and some training and then everything else we provide and more
And we would like to say thank you to our mentors who were at farms and people with all our explanations, as well as Dana Hammer for all the work that you for experiments. Thank you for coming.
They told them they needed to bring the system down in here so that they show people, and they refused to bring it down. I don't know what the problem is. That's a joke because it's super heavy. And did you guys decide some times when you're gonna take people down there? We'll get back in a few minutes. 7:45. We'll do a little mini tour to go to see the greenhouse and where the aquaponics system is. And you'll see remnants of the hydroponic system is until the last season. Okay, is this, am I right? You guys want to pick? Okay. So. Don't touch that one because I didn't make this. And there's a laser. Was our volume okay for everybody for here? I'm gonna bump it just as soon as. And talk to me on what that. Oh, no.
So everyone, thank you for joining. We are, and we are on the air. I'm Kevin, I was driving community. This time.
I'm Sophia, I love Scully.
And all and listen to the talks. We get into our confidence. So we need to okay. Those of you who want to know about this here, someone will get it early. So, all I have to answer is the fact that the students, you can see really hot in the application. You can pull the trigger and bag inflate, and that uses a process called granular convection, which can be thought of kind of like a bag of chips. If you shake up a bag of chips, all the big chips rise up to the top, and the small crumbs fall to the bottom. And so basically, what the airbag does is it increases your volume, so you rise to the top and float and have a decrease in variable.
Of course, we aren't the first people to come up with the avalanche airbag, so we decided to make it better. But first, we had to identify a few downsides to existing airbags. A lot of existing airbags are all averaging price around $1,000, which is very expensive, and we don't think it should be that expensive to pay for. Another downside to existing airbags is that they are all built into a backpack, and with our airbag, it can be placed onto any existing backpack, not just one specific backpack. And finally, most existing avalanche airbags are made with the CO2 canister, and that means that they only get a one-time inflation versus a fan where you can inflate it multiple times and you can take a fan on an airplane.
So next we are going to talk about the planning and development stages for our project.
So when we came to the planning and development of our project, obviously our goals and projects. Obviously our goal is to have a working prototype. We just demonstrated, and we had other goals to address the issues that we saw with other avalanche airbags. We wanted to find an effective, yet affordable way to build our avalanche airbag. We wanted it to be able to transfer between different backpacks and everything. And we also wanted to apply for patents concerning any new techniques that we discovered in our development.
In order to stay on track for our project, we set some goals in the beginning, and we also set up a timeline. One of the programs we used was the Gantt chart, which you can see on the left here.
And we filled out a few goals that we wanted to accomplish and set milestones, and we were able to fill them out with this website and keep it all in order. Another thing we did was each week we wrote on the whiteboard specific goals we wanted to accomplish within the week so that we could stay on track and finish our error bag by today's deadline.
So next we come to research and design. So we had to consider a few things when building our bag. Firstly, we had to decide on the inflation method. We went with the fan method. Second came to the electronics. So we needed to develop something that was easily accessible when you were wearing large ski equipment. So this brought us to the effortlessly designed. So you just give a yank to the leather and your pack inflates. Third, we came to the airbag shape. So our bag's approximately 200 liters, and it's designed to protect your head from like lots of moving ice when you're in an avalanche. We also had to develop our harness that can withstand the pressures of an avalanche. So as we talked about, we started with our design phase. We did a ton of research on inflation methods and the shapes and stuff. And then we came to a design that we wanted our pad to be. That design didn't change too much throughout the course of the project. We made some minor changes and tweaks as we came across problems and different ways to do things, but the underlying design stayed the same most of the time.
We had a few different prototypes throughout our entire project, a lot of trial and error. Our first design was this paper one you see right here. We wanted to get a good idea of where the harness would sit on a person and how weight would be bared based on where the harness buckles were and all of that. We also created another harness before this one, just in the testing phase. But a big thing for our prototype was that on the left here, you'll see a 3D printed fan mount. And it originally had two fans that funneled air into two tubes, but it did not give enough pressure and volume to inflate the airbag within a specific amount of time that was under the avalanche airbag regulations. So we ended up switching to one fan powered by that battery fan.
So the business aspect of our project, we have a company email, we have our company logos seen on our t-shirts, we have our own website where we're working on post stickers that we can buy. We also are in the works of putting our business under a legal mix. We're trying to get it registered. Yeah, we're trying to know this. Looking at the project, we realize there are some things we can do well, but also a lot of things that we definitely improve on. And a couple of us include starting on electronics, having enough time in the end to get electronics to the point where we wanted in the beginning. So we had to optimize it a little bit. Another thing is we should have decided to test different designs. I think we all think that we settled and decided too soon. And there are lots of different designs available. And that's to it's tactical. So we also we had a $7 version, and we can use that different prototypes and custom materials. It's over there. It costs about $160 in materials. And so as we move through different prototypes that we're in, shout out to our sponsors. Thank you for all of us. And thank you to the person of the world for the touch of the values of the touch for the Thank you so much.
I apologize for our speakers and for all the extraneous waiting that are going on. People flights late tomorrow morning and there's quite a bit morning and have been used available, so I apologize for those things. Learning girls together on the next street. By the way, I did, want to mention OtterBox has been a great sponsor for us. They really focused in on trying to get kids, entrepreneurship and philanthropy. We were able to secure a grant from them, but instead of just giving us money to do things with, they were like, hey, why don't you have your kids present, like pitch their projects to us? And so Trisha Vincent and, I need to remember the first name, Lucy, from Honor Cares Foundation, they came in. They heard the pitches from the teams and kind of, asked them questions, and they made a decision on where the funds were going to go. So yeah, try to really handle a lot of things that might happen out in the real world with some.
Yeah.
Did I give you the question?
No.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Lauren, I'm the project manager. I'm Gianna. I'm Sophie. I'm Isha. And basically, our project was to create learning gardens. Give it a sec. Okay, so basically, gardening isn't really taught at schools because it doesn't technically meet any academic curriculum. But we realized that gardens provide a hands-on opportunity for students to learn science, and it's also proven that gardening can help develop critical thinking and creativity skills. So we wanted to provide this learning environment to students in our community. Our project had 6 main goals. Our first one was to create 5 different garden beds and deliver them to local elementary schools that were leaders in fossil rich. We also wanted to learn new woodshop skills because we're not really familiar with that environment, and that includes new tools and techniques. Then we wanted our boxes to look really professional, and if we had time, we would want to create lessons and presentations to give to the kids that incorporated our gardens. At the end of our project, we wanted a way to test that it was effective, and we decided on creating a survey that would display the students' learning. And overall, throughout the project, we wanted to work on our communication skills because we were working with a variety of different types of people. So our initial timeline, by the beginning of January, we wanted all of our logistics figured out, like what schools we were going to and the blueprint of our boxes. And then by the end of that month, we would have to finish up all of our research, just so we can start going on building the boxes. By the beginning of February, we wanted all of our boxes to be built, and then later on through that month, we would be delivering them to elementary schools. And then at the end of spring break, we would hopefully be presenting and providing lessons to the schools. So before starting the project, we first needed to figure out what lessons we could teach that would incorporate gardening. And our research said that we could teach kids about eco-consciousness or photosynthesis or even composting and a lot more. And then since we were teaching, we also needed to figure out how we could be engaging to students. We said that we were going to stick with a format that would be like a mini lesson, then followed by a hands-on project and an end summary with the entire class. And some other minor details were what plants we were going to use with the kids. And with the help of our research and our mentor, we decided to go with anything that was brightly colored and didn't really attract any bees. And also we had to fill our boxes with loam soil because that's a type of soil that just has a lot of different materials and nutrients in it to associate with all of our plants. Okay, so after a lot of discussion of planning, so we did Clears Elementary first, and this was our original blueprint for this design. We ended up choosing these measurements because we wanted to use the least amount of wood with the most effective amount of surface area. Then started working in the wood shop, and we used the radial and armstrong and the bandsaw the most, working on our wood shop skills. And as you can see, this was kind of the process of our first box. And then we were drilling. We did each layer first, and then eventually stacked them up. And As you can see, we kind of finished here, and then we were able to teach, this was our only school we were able to teach, but we taught the kids well. The first lab included the celery lab and cycle. Then the second one had to do with the flower bed section, and eventually using the box that we made to plant flowers.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys about how effective our labs were, how effective our labs were. And so we did a study, it was a post-survey using Google Forms, and we found that nearly 50% of students found that they learned from the celery lab and the water cycle lesson. Nearly 2/3 of students found the flower lesson, or parts of the flower lesson and flower bed section useful, and they learned from it. And nearly 70% of students enjoy planting. So, yeah. And then here above are some qualitative data I collected, and you can feel free to read them. But one significant trend I found was that each student had at least one desired activity that they really enjoyed, and I think that's really good for them. So they really enjoyed having us. And just like a general overview, we definitely finished on time, and we were safe, our box was safe and sturdy and durable. And the lesson ideas were unique and fit 5th grade standards and applied to our garden bed. And our students were very engaging, and that just made our job really easy, and we had a fun time teaching it. Some things we could do better would definitely be some a little sloppy cuts and placement of screws and just minor things, but we definitely learned from that for our second box. And then our second thing that we could have done better is just a way to assess learning. We definitely did do the post survey of that, but we could have done a pre-survey, which would help, but it's okay.
Okay, and the second school that we decided that we were gonna make a box for was Trout Elementary. The first process of making this box was learning how to replicate the 4 garden boxes that they already had, which was super important because you don't want to make a box and have it not match the 4 existing ones. So in our initial approach, these are the measurements that we decided that we were going to try to obtain with the physical box and just the trim. Okay, and for cutting, we used the radial arm saw and the miter saw. And drilling, we started drilling each individual layer before putting it all together. We then used internal supports to connect each layer. And after we had connected all of these, we started on the trim. We decided that it would be the best method to build the trim and then put it on the box. So after the trim was built, we centered it and placed it on the box and then drilled it in. And then staining was the final part of this box. It took us a few weeks to figure out how we wanted to stain, what kind of stain to use, and what would be the best method. And this was super important to make them look like all the other boxes. And yeah.
Okay, so now for a general overview for our second part, it was definitely visually appealing. You can see it over there when you visit. But basically, it matched our other boxes, which was great. And we really utilized the our experience from our last box, and we definitely learned some new techniques, which really made our second box stand out. And just a few slight errors just to if we had to do something better, we could have definitely avoided those slight errors, and that's just placement of screws or leveling issues, but overall we did fix them and it worked out pretty okay. So as you can see, that is our cost structure for our project, and our total was $137.25, and you might be wondering, it should be higher. It actually was not, because of the generous donations that were given from schools and Cedar Wood Supply, and that just really driven our cost down. As you can see, most of our costs went to materials, then lessons, and then soil.
And then, of course, if we had more time, we would definitely do more lessons with Cruz Elementary. There's a significant feedback on taking more time to plant, so we would definitely spend more time in their nature nook and have fun with that. Other than that, we would love to do revisions on the first box, just to make it more, visually. Hello? Visually appealing, but yeah.
Okay, so throughout the project, we obviously learned a lot of new woodshop skills, and that includes using the tools, but it also includes critical thinking and problem solving. And now that we're comfortable in that environment, that won't really limit us in any future projects. We also really strengthened our communication skills just by working with other schools and with each other, and that's a really critical life skill to have. And then when teaching the kids, we learned how to be engaging with our audience and also have them enjoy what we're saying, which we can even use just like in high school presentations. And then lastly, through our lessons, we were also learning with the kids. So when we were like planning out a lesson, we had to know like the parts of a flower or how to like properly plant flowers. And that's just some fun little stuff to know. And we want to give a huge thank you to all of our sponsors, donors, and partners for this project. And that's it.
I bought a lot of flowers for that team. And I ended up bringing them home, and so every time I brought them home, my wife was like, oh, those are really nice. I'm like, sorry, they're not for you. So, we had fun shoveling dirt in the rain together. To fill the box that they put in, that was pretty fun. Nice lucky day for shoveling some dirt. Okay. It's ready to go. To figure it out. Yes. Unless you can talk really well. Which. Yeah. Great.
Our project was one of those ambitious ones Mr. Danaher was talking about earlier. We were trying to create a stair climbing wheelchair. So this is our team. I'm Caleb Julin. I was the team lead, manager and designer and manufacturer. Yeah.
I'm Randy Hampton, and I was the project manager, designer, and manufacturer.
I'm Dr. Wagner, and I'm the communications, 3D printing, and circuitry.
I'm Pushkar and Ben Pellamore, and I was the photographer and program lead for this project.
And our honorary team member, Ross Boone back there, he helped out with a bunch of the 3D printing related stuff.
A lot of the benefits of our project or our goals were that we wanted to aid the elderly and disadvantaged by providing convenience for those in need. A lot of the times, people in wheelchairs are restricted by stairs and have to use that little ramp. And a lot of deaths each year related to wheelchairs are caused by stairs. This was designed to make it so that it reduces the number of wheelchair accidents, and compared to other products in the market that are stair climbing wheelchairs, this should have been relatively cheaper.
Alright, so we have a few project goals that we wanted to meet throughout the semester. So first, we wanted to create a detailed 3D model that we could later develop into a 3D prototype that would be able to then collect data from that prototype our 3D designs and other assets that the data can be designed to the process of developing. And then the second goal is on the bottom, that we don't have auditory safety features that improves safety and generalist efficiency of it, like if you're in a dark room. And then we want to have a similar control interface, which makes it again easy to use, say, in person and lots of difficulties. Well, part of the time, like again, with the planning, just overall speed. And then we start to research on what people need, like electronics and what people want to catch and what it's really doing. And simultaneously, we have kind of halo and read. Well, we push bars so that you're not going to certificate over joining the middle of the project in February and March. And then once we have like material ready for manufacturing, well, we form metal pieces together and getting our certificate ready for planning that project. And then last year was steadily, it's all on parts, and you'll be able to see that later.
The main focus of research was to determine what kind of motor and what kind of programming we wanted to use for our project. First, we needed the force and torque calculated for the wheelchair going up the stairs, and we used relatively simple laws of kinematics for that. And we found that the best types of motor to fit that we could get easily were called Mini V Mitsui stepper motors, as you can see all the way up there. We also researched the best type of treads and tracks, and we said that the best ones would be Caterpillar tracks, just because of how versatile they are. And the best CPU for our project was the Arduino Uno, just because it's so cheap and easy to get. Our design criteria. We wanted to keep it safe. We wanted safety features to ensure that the rider was safe when riding the wheelchair. Self-correction features so that the wheelchair would stay on course. Powerful and efficient design and overall light chassis that would keep the wheelchair light and efficient. And then TPU filament treads that would increase the friction between the treads and the stairs.
Okay, the main pieces we designed, there were the treads up there, which we refer to as ground contacts because the other thing down here is also a tread. The treads were made out of that TPU filament Rick was just talking about to increase friction. We had the motor casings because obviously we can't drill straight into the motors to attach them to the frame. The gear axle was to create a gear ratio. We did not have time to finish that. Gear ratio. The seat itself is obviously important. And yeah, it's the overall tread frame.
Our manufacturing business where we started with manufacturing the main chair. Then we went on to creating the stepper motor circuit, which was Josh and Pushkar working on that. And then we went on to printing the CAD designs, like in mass production. And then we welded the tread chassis together. And then we finally assembled it all together into one big Caterpillar tread.
Okay, so our different manufacturing phases. Well, Pushkar and Josh were working on the coding and wiring. Reed and I were up there welding everything together. The main piece of welding we were working on was that tread frame, which was pretty big and involved a lot of welding, position welding, which if you know what that is, it's kind of tough. And yeah, most of the bulk of the printing we did on the Crucia 3D printers.
At the end of the project, we didn't exactly complete it to our original expectations due to time constraints. Had we had more time, we would have been able to finish the project completely. We did complete most of our design criteria elements over the semester, and we accomplished most of the goals that we set for ourselves. Yeah. And as a group, we learned about the design process and how to apply it to real world skills. And we learned about the applications of mechanics, like in physics to real world problems, the graphic and picture up there. shows the torque calculations required for our motor and how much we need. We learned how to apply STEM skills such as engineering principles to a real world project. As a group, we learned many lessons over the course of our semester. Beginning, we learned how to work effectively as a group. Previously knowing each other from the sophomore class, we came to knowing each other, so it worked out in the end. And then we also learned how to overcome our mistakes and lead to success. Many mistakes led to success. And we also learned how to delegate and divide our tasks among our roles, as we stated earlier. And then we learned how to cooperate with local businesses and institutions, our sponsors mainly. So our overall expected budget was going to be about $500 spread across material, electronics, we would need to actually finish it, and if time allowed, we would most likely meet our actual budget with buying all those materials. But on the table, our actual budget was about a quarter of what we expected, $126.46. And we would like to thank all our mentors that helped us through our project. Christopher Weinberger, professor from CSU, Sudeep Shika, electrical engineer from CSU, Steve Johnson, a assistant in the laboratories at CSU, Daniel Danhauer, our STEM advisor, Herb Bevan, the welding teacher here at Florida School, and Nelson Isaacson, he's also an electrical engineer, provided us with many of our electrical help. And we would also like to thank our sponsors, OtterBox, for their generous donation to our project, and CSU for letting us use their laboratories and resources to help us finish our project. And that is all.
Did want to give another shout out, as you guys mentioned, Steve Johnson. He's the undergrad labs manager for the engineering department at CSU. Steve's always like, hey, your kids want to do this? Yeah, just send them over and we'll help them out. It's like no matter what. The last semester, we had a team that was working on a rocket gimbal, and he was like, yeah, come over and we'll play with the jet engine we have. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Steve and other people that work with him in the engineering department over there, because they're always willing to help out our students. And it's really fun for them to get over there and actually see what the college environment looks like in terms of resources they have, because we really have nothing compared to what they do, even though we're pretty blessed with what we do have. So it's good.
All right, so our project was a tennis ball launching vehicle. I am Trace Lehman, the project manager, and I did a lot of the financing and construction.
H. Abrams, and I did a lot of the photographing and just the documentation, and I was a construction assistant.
I'm Riley, and I was working with the electrical systems and also helping with the programming a little bit.
I'm Avi. I worked on the programming and I also helped with the electrical effects.
Right, so our project required a lot of planning and development. We had a lot of changes from the original design, and including the original design was about the size of a small car. And 2 people were able to fit inside and use a pneumatic cannon. But we had to make it much smaller and RC powered for time limitations and budget effects. Some of our major goals were to get a functioning vehicle that was able to fire a tennis ball and also to be able to move around on its own. And some of our secondary
secondary goals were to make it as efficient as possible and as cheap as possible. So through our timeline, first off, we started with our team establishment where we were setting up our team goals and timeline to eventually head out through. And then after that, we moved on to research where we went into several different design iterations and ended up on a rotary wheel design as opposed to the original pneumatic design. And then following that, we went into our design establishment, and then eventually after all of that, we went into manufacturing and construction through it. So we, like I said earlier, this project had to do a lot of research. We had run into a lot of issues with us not knowing how to do the math required, and that's where our mentor from CSU came into a ton of help because he was able to explain to us what the requirements for our motors to spin the wheels. And we also had to start researching and building a design that would work well with our time limit because it's a lot easier to build a box instead of a car. These are a lot of our slides that we had. We had to make a lot of personal purchases at the beginning, and I wish we would have been more organized about that because we ran into a lot of issues with not being able to find things later on in the project because of specific items we were using.
So phase 3, we went into our design. That was just a lot of planning and getting sketches and stuff. You can see here, we got our initial drawing. It was supposed to be a 2-car, 2 people. Supposed to be able to fit inside it. That was pretty unrealistic. So made it a lot smaller and yeah. This is our initial logos. 90% of what we have now. This is our basically what we have there. It's just that single shooter and everything on this side.
Our prototypes that I was supposed the one on the right was a Capstone model. Our just our basic design what we are trying to be. And then the frame on the left is our Capstone one. And we took that and we sort of went on with it for our frames.
Right, this project took a lot of building and required a lot of new skills for it. None of us had ever done it before, and we made a full frame. So we started the frame, it took us a while to make, considering not enough had ever done it before. And we ran into a couple of issues with that sizing and it not quite being perfectly level areas. Then we went on to placing and developing the boards to the sides in order to provide the steer mounts for other items. And then we came to those boards with some and so these are the specific to our floor where up here we have our technical our starters rotary wheel motors to our CPU and a power source. And here is a couple of our critical soldering and figure batting our wiring together. Up here on the left, we have the critical that references
Basically, this, motoring photos of steel items on the sides and before, handles moving forward, and, basically, just what we did is
And this is our, products, which you, see, so there. And just, this is what we could have done if we would have had enough time. And if we would have had an extra 2 weeks, we would have been able to finish our, design. And then we with an extra 1 to 3 months because of being able to incorporate some features, like, more versatile, drive-based units.
or basically, it's outside the model. But basically, and, we couldn't get another spot, until we just everything in that time. But, it was affected, that's fine.
How much time is it gonna need, like, sir, we only got about an hour and a half ago. Thanks. Yeah, that's famous. And we're very happy with us functioning, maybe not much style as we wanted it to, but it doesn't work. And we also wanted it to be able to fire multiple different kinds of storage vaults. Because we felt that in order to limit this, you have a lot of items, you have to fix one like all these things. And so by having a monitor volume that has multiple, the ability to fire multiple different spaces of protocols, you would be able to save people from buying really expensive equipment. Because a single like baseball card will cost $32,000.
And then there are some of the really data similarities on those projects. We outdoor generation units and we really like kind of the government. Final weeks when we were transferring and trying to make this something that we got together. And we really like to hear all our other projects, either the other stages, as relationships together. And outside of together, like we're gonna do the whole thing for the things. And really just effectively communicating, and also just really important, just knowing what everybody needs to, and it's forecasting how to do it, and what it's not happening, what it's supposed to be. And then to the importance of adaptability, we have some figures throughout the project, and really has to be several countries and make it.
So this is a slide plan where we got it, and so our initial design, our initial budget was around $2,000 for what we would have needed, and after we scrapped that design, our second design, which is our initial one with all our different parts, it was about $1,000, and final design was about $360, and it was an initial what is actually about $7, mostly because of the robotics and letting us with the electronic components, which thank you so much for that. The government office and we have done from other costs, and we got tons of help from the engineering department, CSU, robotics, and just the school in general, allowing us to be the team in their workshop.
I did want to start with education, and I appreciate you guys clapping because sometimes you get in the weeds of the project. Engineering can be like, let's just hit the books and do the math to get it right. I mean, sometimes it's like, let's just try things, we can get right. And a little bit of both sometimes gets you in the right spot. And so it's easy to get bogged down in some of these engineering projects with how do we incorporate the physics? How do we just trial by error and not mess things up? So I just wanted to commend them because they spent a ton of time in the shop, running today. And I just feel great, everyone will go out in the shop, making real time, during the month periods, they really dedicated to trying to make everything work. Thanks for it. Appreciate your efforts. All right, yeah, they can get another round of applause, that's good. Okay. Yeah. No. All right, thanks, no. Okay. Down, right? Yeah, down. And then.
Okay, so our project was introducing all things in the I'm calling it off in out of the project manager for this.
My name is Alexia, Research Communications and Finance.
My name is Logan, and I did research and talking to this project.
My name is Philippe, and I ended up doing research as well as finance.
Okay, so a little bit about background on this project. So, one of the facts that bacteria can develop resistance to antibiotics or source of low concentration. This is why you can prescribe antibiotics for infection, and it's telling you to take all of your antibiotics so that bacteria don't develop resistance. And for this project, we decided to use an antibiotic called sulfate. And this allows us to do an antibiotic, which means that if you have an infection that's already developed resistance to other antibiotics, then sulfate is one of the antibiotics that might be prescribed to you. And resistance to sulfate defined as bacteria being able to spot concentration of 4 micrograms per milliliter was discovered in E. coli in 2016. So, the reason studying this project was inspired by an article in Nature magazine called Evolution of Antibiotic Resistance or Low Level Antibiotic Exposure. And in that study, researchers found that the bacteria are exposed to low concentrations of antibiotics for long periods of time, they are able to develop pathogens.
About the planning and development of this project. Initially, when we were designing this project, we had 4 major primary goals: article specific ways, antibiotics, bacteria. And using this, we'd be able to identify the gene that causes policy resistance and collect data on the resistance threshold for E. coli. Along with this, we were handling on biohazard and not safe bacteria. We wanted to complete the science and we're all the study including well. Move on. We also was taking so like we were this and what needs. We actually did accomplish this. I was taking a line up of your mentor on the 23 weeks, and so we learned a lot about really wants to involved in biology. Well, I want to see how an antibiotic that was able to calculate that already developed some resistance to existing antibiotics. However, this is a really complicated process, and we couldn't do that. But a lot of this, we had to create the lessons by also resistant bacteria for these future standards. A lot of things that we're doing as well, we did 4 major phases. Our first phase was to grow bacteria. This is the most common, and we or even it's limited slowly in the great concentration of sulfates. After this, we tested their antibiotic resistance through playing them on calcium abuse adverse trial phase. And then we performed PCR, which is so we're really shaking about it. It's a long word, but we use this and put it in and to start with the basis to compute our results.
Alright, so now into the experiment itself. As was meant that there were 4 phases to this, the first was to grow the bacteria, And we established a concentration of 1 microgram per 1 liter of policy sulfate, so that it would be below the minimum mandatory concentration and hopefully reduce that resistance. Then, of course, we got to test whether or not they develop that resistance. And so we put them onto plates where they grew at different concentrations of policy sulfate, so we could test exactly which level they developed resistance. And then we moved into ECR development to check and see if they had developed those and any previously documented genes inside the literature. Okay, so our first phase of developing material would be every day for 7 weeks, we went in and we transferred bacteria in this healthy agar problem. And we did this, every day for 7 weeks in the hopes that they would essentially select the bacteria which had photosynthesis. And then we tested the bacteria versus we played them in also a different place. We had a place at a concentration of 0 micrograms per milliliter, 50, 100, and all the way up to 200 micrograms per milliliter of calcium sulfate from the nutrient that they were growing on. And then finally we did a PCR. This was with 4 different microsets from scientific literature, SCR 1, 2, 3, and 4, and intermediate policy resistance. And essentially, we were trying to see what bacteria that can gain change that had already been documented in research with science.
Okay, so the results of our project was as follows. So the draft represented the data collected from our experiments. As you can see, the y-axis is the number of colonies present in each petri dish, and the x-axis is representative of the concentration of calcium sulfate within those petri dishes measured in micrograms per milliliter. Conclusive by our data, as you can see, with this line here, our control that demonstrated that it's incapable of growing at 50 micrograms per milliliter concentration of calcium sulfate, whereas the other 7 colonies that we tested all were capable of growing upwards of 200 micrograms per milliliter concentration of calcium. What this means, in other words, is that in some period of time, after growing up just in 97 samples, able to resist up to 700 times more than was previously posted. This kind of happened by the idea of making sure that we are responsible for antibiotics, culturing bacterial pests, as well as agents to make sure that we can minimize this risk. So our budget goes approximately 70% of our budget to growing the itself, as well as containers, as well as the cost and very large costs. And the remaining 30% went to the purchasing of major release of PCR and purposes. The majority of this was for our products, as well as the estimates. Speaking of estimates, we allocated a huge shout out to our sponsors. Dr. Bradley from UCSC was very helpful in running the educating us and teaching us about the procedures that was the policy for this experiment. This is very important as we see where we're doing as we go. So you can develop some of the questions that we have as well as experimental process, and you create a poster. And coming back to the past, we like to take a huge shout out to the help and thank you so much for Stephanie, Rontara, that's a huge help. They ended up actually giving us our estimates, and you can see reduce discount on the price. So these are some of our sources, and we'd like to thank all of you so much for coming up. Peace out.
Yeah, we're really happy to support the hands you can see a repeating theme here. Also, just wanted to give back a big shout out to Cargill, Kristen and Meredith, because some of these biotech projects that the students want to do the equipment that's needed and the other pieces of it, just the knowledge required is way outside of my ability to skill. So they are invaluable in terms of like making products. Some of those labs I can probably do. So thank you guys for very well. Okay, let me get you the questions. Last one, and then we'll get on to it. Hope you guys are coming up with some really good questions for all of these themes.
Okay, awesome. So, my name is David. I'm Natalie. I was your brother. I'm Clara. I was in ages. Okay, so our section what we did was some interesting students with the goal of recognition in some subjects. So how was the subjects when the personal guides for teaching social skills? And then our secondary goals were more the student projects, basic learning and testing labs, figuring out the questions spreadsheet for this costs and materials, and then also creating a schedule and student assessments. So this is just a general timeline of our project. We studied weeks 1 through 8, kind of a decision drawing, basically project and we're testing labs and then getting materials well. And this study design is 16 actually go to elementary schools and form the labs to students. And then in the 17 months now, we were reflecting on the data and department. Okay, so for research and design, it was a lot of brainstorming the labs. So once we brainstormed a lot of different ideas, we kind of pared it down to 2-stage grades, lab based on what we thought the different students' capabilities would be and what would be most engaging. So once we figured out the labs, then we ordered materials and tested the labs prior to going to elementary school so we could know what the most effective way to teach them was. So for our first day of labs, we did a station stay and the students rotated through 3 different labs. The labs were CD hovercrafts, oblique, and catapults. So these all explored different topics of STEM. The CD hovercrafts, essentially they got a CD with like a water bottle pump top, lid hot glued onto it, and then they blew up a balloon and put it onto the CD, and it explored the topic of air displacement. And then with the oblique, it explored properties of matter, just because sometimes it's liquid, sometimes it's solid. You guys have never seen oblique. And then catapults, it helps them explore the engineering process a little bit more because they were given popsicle sticks, rubber bands, and plastic spoons and told to just make a catapult. We explained like what they were going to be like using the catapult for, and they were just playing ping pong balls. So they went through that process of designing, building, testing, and then redesigning, rebuilding. So our second lab was dry ice, and we basically gave them an overview of what it's made out of and its temperature, and that helped them understand how it's colder than normal ice. And then within that, we did a little experiment with the dry ice. So for example, they made dry ice bubbles, which is basically where you add dry ice to water, and then dish soap, so they can see how when you mix water and dry ice, it makes a visible gas. And then we also tested pH because we had different solutions, and when you add the dry ice in solutions, you can tell how it changes based on the universal indicator if it goes to acidic, basic, or neutral. So they just understood the basic terms of pH.
And we started with an elephant toothpaste demonstration method class, and then learned about chemical reactions and chemicals. Our second was lava lamps, where we took oil and vinegar and then learned about the different effects of density from liquids. And then our third was a skills lab where they learned about how which senses are connected.
All right, so our final lab was an ice cream lab where all the students got to make ice cream. This was a really fun lab for them, just kind of to wrap it up. They learned about different phase changes, what the term freezing point meant, and the role that salt has, like, when it's outside, with the ice.
So these are some of our results. On the last day of the labs, which was the ice cream, we gave each student a small survey, which just had 3 questions, and it was basically, what was your favorite lab? What other ones did you enjoy? And what's something that you learned? So each of these were some, like, that we just pulled, of what they learned, and as you can see, it's like basic general concepts that they picked up on, but concepts nonetheless. And then these are some of their favorite labs. So obviously ice cream came first. We were kind of expecting that. And then dry ice and chemicals.
So because we went to 4 schools and did 4 labs each, and we had a lot of materials for each lab, the cost started to add up, and the total came to around $420. So to counter this, we applied for the OtterBox grant, and we received $500. We also applied for the fundraiser at Panda Express, and we got around $55, and then we received a $25 gift card from King Soopers.
Reflecting back, what we did well was the kids were very engaged in the monthly labs and we were organized for the monthly school. We learned a lot about patience with the kids, classroom management and communication skills with everyone involved in their projects. What could have went better was our communication with our mentor, controlling the kids when we were doing the labs and having more of a consistent schedule. And then with more time, we would like to add more labs, go to more schools, and have more set lesson plans.
And finally, we'd just like to thank everyone who helped support our project, King Soopers, Panda Express, and OtterBox for helping fund the project. Our mentor, Karina Hassel, Alphabets for letting us do our labs through their after-school program, and Mr. Dana Howard for supporting us through the class.
If you remember your elementary school years, and if you ever had high schoolers come and teach you fun lessons like this, it's memorable, right? So you can bet those kids are gonna remember some of the lessons they learned. Hey, how big was your big school group that you worked with, 70? 60? And you're like, that's a lot of little kids to control when you're trying to do science experiments, so hats off for that again. So, hey, thanks everybody. Excellent job. Just another round of applause for all of our teams for those great. Before we get on to our gallery time, just a couple of things. First of all, if you're a senior STEM member, would you stand up if you're here and you're a senior? We have 1, 2, some left. Did Christian and to go? Okay. All right, thanks. Yeah. You know, we had some coming in and out, they didn't want to stay here the whole time because they're graduating, they're ready to get on the flight. So, totally understandable, but one thing I like is seeing these students from when we invite them to the STEM Academy as freshmen and seeing how really not much, they don't know much in 10th grade, you know, we're trying to build those skills up, and then they get mentorships, they do these projects, and then a lot of them do internships, and they just learn so many different skills, and it's fun to see that progression throughout the years. Also, I just want to say, a lot of our seniors will come back and support other teams. And so I really appreciate that. I wanted to invite Olivia Spanner up. So if you would come up, she's got a few thoughts for us today. Olivia started in the program before I was a part of it. And I was fortunate enough to work with her last year on her Capstone project, which involved introducing bioluminescence into plants with simple, right? And again, worked with Meredith over at Cargill. And so I wanted to just have her reflect on her experience as a senior and then going through the STEM Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. I'll try not to make the microphone do weird things. Good evening, STEM Academy students and parents. I'm Olivia Stanley, a STEM senior here at Fossil and alumni, soon to be. I've enjoyed listening to all the groups here tonight present about their projects and semester's work. I not only saw some excellent exhibitions of innovation and science tonight, but even more special to me was the glimpse of everyone's journey and their STEM experiences here, just through these presentations. Because as many of you guys might know, the STEM Academy program here is so much more than just science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's also about hard work, passion, hardship, relationships, and growth. I took the seminar class last year in the springtime, and it was definitely the most memorable class in my high school career. I worked with a group of 3 other girls, and our project's premise was to genetically modify a couple plant types such as tomato, blueberry, duckweed, and strawberry, to be bioluminescent with the insertion of bioluminescent mushroom genes. Pretty quickly we realized that we would need help, and so we found our mentor in Cargill with Meredith Wheeland and Kristen Gray. Together we established a plan of action to tackle this bioengineering feat, and similar to professional scientific work that started with research. That was a very painstaking process. We spent many weeks searching hours, for hundreds of articles and scientific papers, which if you guys have ever read those, they're really, really long. And they were about many subjects such as mushrooms and plants and how to take care of them and different types of research methods and procedures that they use. And simultaneously to that, we also hosted a fundraiser at GCOs and we got over $500 for that. So we started using that right away because buying all this bioluminescent stuff and technology costs a lot of money. We purchased RNA primers, which was the bane of our existence for a while. It started to get complicated once we realized that we need to make RNA primers. We had great outreach efforts and stellar results with that, with $500 from the DCOs and everything. But we realized that the mushroom we were going to use, which is Melis stipticus, we had been cultivating it and had died over spring break, and we didn't know where to go. And its RNA primer sequence hadn't been discovered yet, so we had to figure out a way to overcome that. And that was really hard for us. We had a hard time. We were so deep into the project. It was in March, and these were done by May, so we were really frustrated. But we did what we thought was best, and so we sequenced our own RNA primers, which was actually very hard. It was one of the most challenging undertakings I've ever had, but it was also very rewarding. We ended up succeeding in making bioluminescent plants, and they're visible under UV light and dimly visible with the naked eye. But I just want to reflect on my experience. So I learned a lot about trial and error. So that when one way of working through a problem doesn't work, you got to try a different solution, or one that haven't thought of before. And working with others is really good help for that because there's 4 minds on that instead of just me. And that was really good help. I also learned about friendship and power of that, and what I just said, but it also helped me find my passion in biology and biotechnological sciences, which I will still take in my future with me. It also got me a CSP internship working with artificial heart valves at the bioengineering department over there. That was a really cool experience for me because I was able to apply what I learned here into the real world, and I would recommend that for all of you guys. STEM also helps me to advance my career in STEM, and I'm gonna follow it through with biomedical majoring on the pre-med track at CSU. So this really helps me to figure out what I'm doing, and it also left me with so many memories, which I think is almost even more important than all the career help I got. I have so many memories with all my group, and all of our target runs, all of our little adventures we went on. We even went on a little trip to that nursery and bought plants together afterwards, and we're still friends today. We're graduating together this weekend. So it's really crazy how all of these things connect. So I would just like to say some final thank yous. So I'd like to thank Mr. Dan Howard, who's the STEM director, and because he always believes in our group and supported us even when our experiments failed miserably. I also want to thank my group mates, Casey, Hazel, and Bronte, who's here tonight. And they supported me throughout this program and continue to support me every day. I also wanted to thank you guys for listening to my rather wordy speech and awkward language. But I genuinely wish for all of these STEM students out there to keep pursuing it and to choose a career in the STEM field, because it's really crazy, interesting, and I think that it's amazing work. So thank you all and for coming and listening to me, and have an amazing night.
Lydia's one of those people who I'm like, hey, will you come do this? And she's like, sure, I'll be there when you want me there. Or hey, can you do that? Can you help with this? And she always there. So I wanted to present you with a STEM supporter award. That can go on your refrigerator. Hey, also Christian left, so maybe I will hold this to him. Actually, he has been a really big help. When you have 32 kids who are trying to learn how to CAD and code and do electronics, and there's only one teacher, it's a bit chaotic. And Christian came in, he's always there, he's there to help out and support, he's a senior. And so I also wanted to give him the STEM supporter award, because I wish that we had more people who would come in and support Surrey juniors next year. Like, come on in, we can talk to your teachers during your classes where I need you and get you to come in and help us through these projects, okay? All right, very good, we'll talk in a minute. We're gonna move on now into our time of kind of exploring the different projects. So feel free to mingle around and grab some more refreshments. And when you feel like you've had your fill, you're free to go. So I'll kind of say thank you so much for coming tonight. I will remind you that we'll have a tour of the greenhouse and the aquaponics system in about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll announce that next time. So, all right, thanks everybody. You know, it's hard sometimes. Thanks for coming.
I know it's not easy.
It's a little bit of work. Oh, nice to meet you. Yes, nice to meet you. Bill is, our pharmacy lead. I don't know if you know that, but, he brings this like, his last name, it's always fun. He's the class. I just want to say that, because it's not in a negative way. Wait, no, we need that to bring groups together. Like kind of group, right? So like in groups, and he served up. Yeah. It's a good thing.
Got me in trouble, got me in trouble.
We know. Well, thank you very much. Hey, you okay? Sorry, let me stop that real quick. The recording, and I don't really need to be.